Apollo P13 here, and welcome to today's video. Today's video, I'm going to do a bit of an in-depth analysis on a specific team and try and talk what you need to know about them in order to beat them when you come across them. That team is the Guardians. So today's video is everything you need to know about how to beat the Guardians. Alright, so I'm going to talk mainly about a bit about each character in their roster, and quickly two other characters that you might come across when fighting the Guardians of the Galaxy. So first off, I'm going to talk about Rocket. Rocket, pros have been fighting against him, he is pretty squishy. You can see mine here is very, very powerful. Cons, he hits very hard. He hits harder when Groot's around, and he hits harder when Star-Lord's around. You put them both there, he hits insanely hard. He is really dangerous and someone you need to watch out for, but he is very squishy. And all of his attacks can be blind. So that's a good thing to note about him. We have Star-Lord here, who is a legendary character, but he gives the damage and speed boost to all the Guardians, so he really makes the team more dangerous. He starts off with a big single target burst, and then he has a blind, which gives some ability energy. He also gives a lot of ability energy out, so a lot of people get more dangerous when he's around, and he's already pretty dangerous on his own. Followed up, we have GAMORA. GAMORA used to be one of the best in the game, but she seems to be falling a little bit behind. But she's very fast and does some pretty good damage, but she is also squishy. Star-Lord is squishy too. When I say squishy, it means that they die pretty easily. So that is something you can take advantage of. All three of these characters deal a lot of damage, but they can die quite easily. Groot here, he actually deals a pretty good amount of damage. He's pretty slow. He kind of needs Star-Lord to give him that speed, but he does really improve Rocket. And after his buff, he can be kind of useful. He can be actually a lot more useful. When he dies, he gives a lot of buffs to the other Guardians. His first move, he'll do a slight heal and do some cleanse from his team. So putting debuffs on the rest of the Guardians right before Groot doesn't really do anything, as he will clean that all off. And his second turn, he'll give defense up and death proof. So he is someone you have to pay attention to and plan your strategy around. Finally, we have, well, not so finally, but we have Drax. Drax is a taunt at the very beginning of the fight, pretty annoying, and then his next move is going to be a taunt. So really what you have to do when you have Drax there is you have to pay attention to his taunts and find a way to deal with them, because he and Groot are the main point of survivability on this team. Now we have Mantis, who you might not always see, and apparently I wasn't going to see there for a bit as she loads, but you might not always see, especially in Blitz and Arena, but she has a chance of getting a first turn stun, and she does a lot of healing, which is just a bit of a nuisance, but she isn't a very big attacking threat, just more of a survivability threat. So another point to make, I did mention that Groot does give a lot of buffs on death. When you're fighting this team, be careful about killing Groot. If you kill Groot accidentally too early, he can give buffs to the wrong people like Rocket, and that can really hurt your team if Rocket gets offense up, which he can get right from here. Always apply speed up and offense up counter to Guardian allies. If Rocket gets offense up and that does the AoE, your team is probably in big trouble. Now, two more characters to mention. Let's just go over to Cosmic for that, because you will see people run them with this team, is THANOS. THANOS is a really good character to use on offense, really, with this team. He also works really, really well with them in raids, but on the plus side, he doesn't get the taunt up right away, so you can start working on the squishy characters before he gets the taunt up, but when he does, it's really hard to get rid of. Unlike Drax, you can get rid of his taunt relatively easily. Now, last character is Yondu. Here you have Yondu. A lot of people know a lot about Yondu because he's been one of the better characters in the game for a long time. He has a Dispel, some summons, and a AoE damage. So he's going to start with a Dispel, and he's going to steal some buffs from your team. So you have to pay attention with that. And if Taunt is likely to be cleared pretty quick because Yondu has a fast speed, which I'm trying to show you right here. About 112, and then he gets to Dispel with his basic, and then he will do an AoE, and then he will summon. So it's important to know the turn orders. Rocket starts with a big single target damage, and then when he's next to Star-Lord, he usually follows that up with an AoE. So it's some important things to keep track of. So what do you do to deal with this? Well, depends on the lineup. But assuming that they run the most common lineup, which I'll hit this button here, go over to the Guardians again. The most common lineup you will come across will be, actually the top 5 I have here: Rocket, Star-Lord, Gamora, Groot, Drax. Well, when you're dealing with this team you have that I just mentioned of Rocket, Star-Lord, Gamora, Groot, Drax, you really have 2 ways to go about it. The first method is dispel Drax as soon as you can and prevent him getting his taunt up a second time somehow. Whether that's a dispel and a disrupt, doesn't really matter. But basically just not letting Drax get his taunt up a second time before you've dealt with the other character. So maybe a very fast dispel and then take out Rocket. Again, a lot of these characters are squishy, which is very helpful. The other method is just basically ignore the fact that he has a taunt and just go for a lot of AoE damage and try and take them all down as fast as possible, which is very useful. You can also try and blind Rocket to avoid his big AoE and go about taking them down that way. Another method I've heard, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend, is some people like to go against the Guardians with Doctor Strange and try and kill Groot first and then flip all of their buffs into debuffs. I haven't personally tried this method, but I have heard it works, so if you want to try that, go ahead. So now that I've kind of given you the general plans of what to do, some good characters to use against them would be a lot of the same Guardians characters. Tech teams tend to work pretty well against them. Brotherhood works pretty good against them because you can blind them and take away a lot of their attacks. So there's a lot of plans. Captain Marvel would theoretically work quite well because she's really fast, can take away Drax's taunt, and then you'll be free to attack the other characters. Yondu, again, fast dispel. So characters with fast dispel and good AoE damage right off the bat are really good ways to go about this. So I'm going to check really quickly in Arena, see where I am, see if I can find a Guardians of the Galaxy team to attack. Okay, that's the team I will likely be using. This team works incredibly well because you have defense up from Vision on these 3 on the right: Minerva, Rocket, and Star-Lord, which really gives them a good chance. And also you have some survivability from Groot, and if you face a Guardians team, Groot usually dies right away, giving all the buffs, and then Minerva can revive him right back up. Let me show you how this ideally would work. Okay, that's a Brotherhood. Hey, there we go. It just randomly switched to a full Guardians team. The biggest concern when fighting them for me, ironically, even though there's 2 characters over 50,000, Gamora is right there and Drax has really high power, is actually the Groot, because he can actually cause a lot of issues. But I'm going to go fight this team. You can see they're 238,000. My team is about 180,000. So let's see how this goes down. Okay, I'm going to put it on ×2. You can see I'm already taking a bunch of damage on my Minerva, but thanks to the defense up, she managed to survive that. Another thing to mention, when Rocket is on the same team as Star-Lord, Rocket goes really early because of the speed bonus Star-Lord provides. So right now I'm going to use the special into Drax so I can get a taunt on my Groot. And then hopefully, this sounds really weird, but hopefully Star-Lord will take out my Groot. Because their characters seem to have priority in turn for this go. There we go, Groot's down. My full team gets all the buffs. Now Minerva will revive my Groot. I will put a blind out randomly and hope it lands on some good characters. Ironically, it lands on no characters that are actually going to do any attacks that will be prevented or changed by blind. The ability block lands on Gamora. Was hoping it would hit Groot. So all of those debuffs are gone, which I did mention can be a concern when fighting this team. But now this is really the reason this team works. I have an offense-upped Rocket ready to use his AoE, and let's see what this does. Okay, I have Star-Lord left, Groot left, and Drax left. So I'm in really good shape here. So I just need to work on getting rid of this Drax. Unfortunately, I have a couple of characters blind. Minerva's not blind, however, so she should take out Star-Lord. Groot, oh, she took out Drax too and finished off everybody. There we go. So that is a win. And hopefully, even if you don't have this team exactly, this video showed you ways that you can take down the Guardians and taught you everything you need to know about the Guardians in order to take them down. If you did like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you have any other ways, feel free to let me know down in the comments, or you can talk to me about it in my Discord. There's a link to that in the video description. Along two other links, wow, English is hard today, along with two other links, one for a Patreon, one for a Tippy. If you're interested in supporting the channel, those are good ways to do that. I do hope you guys enjoyed this after all, and as always, I'm here to help.